Okay, our next speaker is going to be Mr. Dar Geis. Dar is a rancher over by Piers, Minnesota. He's going to talk to us a little bit about his reputation feeder cattle program and some of the points that go along with that. And I just me personally, I think this is a really interesting concept, and that's kind of why I invited Dar to come talk about it. So help me welcome Dar Geis.
It's nice to me when he introduces me, but when I get a little close to being over time, then he's like this all the time. So, and Clarence, I know you moved here from 65 from Iowa, but the thing you didn't tell him is they closed the border when you tried to go back. So. Well, the thing about Clarence is, I know it's a hard-working family, and you've done a lot of good things. My family too has been in the cattle business since 1904. And thinking about 1904, I'm thinking about Hereford cattle and how good they was, and every pasture you drove by was Hereford cattle, one after the other. And in those days, a 500-pound calf, Clarence, was awful big, wasn't it? Yep. I mean, now them 500-pound calves are kind of light to us. So, about a year ago, in 2013, our family raised a South African cattle, and we had a semi-load of calves we wanted to market. And being as they were South Devon calves, people were kind of scared of them because they're not mainstream, like say an Angus or Simmental. But I had measured ultrasound data for 16 years. We had birth weights, weaning weights, yearling weights on everything, and EPDs, and we do everything by the book. Everything that these meetings were say we're supposed to do, we've done. But I wanted to make sure if I sold these calves, they brought the value that they were worth based on their merit. So I was kind of told about, reputation feeder cattle. So we ran our numbers on our herd, the bulls we'd used in the past, and we came back with a 2642 number. At the time, it was the highest number they'd had in the company. And that day, in 2013, the calves were worth, the black hiding calves, the good calves were worth 170, 171, 175. And that day, our calves were about 184, 187. And Joe Barner at Tri-County Livestock said, the day we had people call us from people we never heard of before, so how'd you get the word out? So this is kind of the continuing story of how I came to be part of Reputation Feeder Cattle. And the first thing I want to look at is kind of where we're at in the market right now. So if you look here, here's 2009, 2013. So that market was pretty steady. When we get up here to 14, we really kind of climbed all year long. You couldn't do anything wrong that year. Then we got really smart here, and we started over here again. Then we really fell. That's last September. And now we're kind of stabilized. Actually, we kind of have a steady market again now. Here's your cow prices. Again, this kind of follows the same pattern. Heifer replacements. And this is kind of a good graph because here we are over here. And I predict this year we're not going to have as many heifers kept back for breeding as we did a year ago. A lot of the guys that bought heifers last year, the self-bred heifers, didn't really make a whole lot of money. Heifer slaughter, again, we just kind of want to see where we're kind of at, where we're kind of falling right here. We're kind of climbing back up, and I think that's a good prediction. Cow slaughter again. It's, I talked to Dan Rinsler at Long Prairie Packing the other day, and he said they have plenty of cows on hand. They're kind of steady. They're a little bit up this week, again, price-wise. This is kind of what I think, right here is kind of a telltale. So here's our average weight, okay? But look what happened right here. We all know that last fall, the weight of these cattle got awful big. These steers, now I'm not picking on feedlot guys, because here's the deal, they pay a lot of money for these calves. Cost of gain is around 80 cents. And steers are about, live was about $1.25 to $1.35. So every pound they put on these cattle, they made weight. But at the same time, they put a lot more meat on the market. Here's our feedlot replacements, and that's pretty much staying steady all the way through, and I don't predict it's going to be different. So it kind of gets down to where we all know Jim Wolf up here in the front row, and Jim's a good guy. He sells really good breeding stock, and he also has worked all his life to raise the kind of cattle that feedlots want, right? You don't mind to pick on you get to that, Jim. All right. So Jim does that, and he does everything right. I mean, when you buy a bull from Jim Wolf, he's had everything in the book done to him to possibly ensure that you'll buy a good bull. He also knows the age, the source of these cattle. I'm sure Jim does the best mineral program he can find. And he treats those calves like kings and queens, right? I mean, that when you get a set of calves from Jim Wolf, that their cattle are going to be clean, good cattle, and had everything done to them. But your neighbor, Eric Mosel over here. Well, Eric, you know, he's too busy being a dad and going to university stuff, so he buys anything with a scrotum, right? He dials up someone, just buy me a bull. And he knows for these meetings he ought to give shots, but he's not sure what kind of shots Eric, you know, he's supposed to give. And he buys at least 2 bags of trace mineral every year, right? I mean, he goes to the co-op once a year for Christmas and gets his Christmas present at the co-op and gets his 2 bags of mineral. Now, he knows that he doesn't really know the difference between a comic book and a calving book, but he thinks there's something different there. And when Jim and Eric take the calves to town, they almost bring the same money, almost all the time, within a few cents. So beyond color, weight, geography, we really can't value the difference between most of these calves. And on any given day, $3-4 separates most of these cattle, whether they're been fed good or not fed good. So this is actually 2 sets of cattle. It's about down by Stapleton, Nebraska. These are neighboring ranches, okay? I mean, the fence goes right down the middle there, and those cattle look pretty similar, right? And they're, you know, they'll say at the sale barn they're black, and they're really fancy guys, and the best you can buy, right? And they'll feed like thunder and lightning, right? I mean, I could just see the auctioneer going, pounding, you know, these cattle here, you gotta have them, right? Well, those 2 sets of cattle, the same feedlot bought them, right? Actually, I know the guys who bought them. This is what happened. The 1 set of cattle weren't vaccinated, didn't have a good mineral program, generally didn't buy very good bulls, but they brought within 2 cents of the top calves. That's over here, okay? If they would have paid $84 a head less for the same cattle, that's their break even. Okay? They would have to pay less money to get them, but that's where they fell. So they were in a loss. Over here, the other guy, Jim, he's vaccinated, he's got a good mineral program, buys very good bulls, and sells good genetics. That's the difference there, 160, $70 between the 2 sets of cattle. So that's kind of where our story lies, is there. So this is kind of breaks out, you know, your feed to gain is a big driver. Okay, we need to know that information. Grid value, carcass weight, and health. I mean, even health plays almost 18% in these cattle. And do we see the difference in the cow-calf level? Usually not. So really what's happened here is we failed to document just exactly how much value is in these cattle. The feed, the gain, the grid value, the carcass weight, it's in the genetics basically in these cattle, but so many times, unless you bought those cattle previously, you really don't know what they are. So those of us in the seed stock business, I'm sure Tom Hook could look at this thing right here, and he can summarize pretty fast, can't you, Tom, what these cattle are, right? But I also heard a story that Tom Hook stopped by a couple of feedlots on the way down to Denver this year. And I bet if Tom would have laid this piece of paper on the table with that feedlot guy, he probably wouldn't really know how to read that very well most of the time. Too much information. They just don't know what to do with it. I mean, they really don't. They have 3 questions usually. How big will they get? How fast and efficient will they get there? And what are they worth when they hang? That's really what Dick, what you know when you buy calves? I mean, that's really where you're at. I mean, it doesn't matter all the auctioneer stuff that's announced, you know, previously. So 30 years of EPDs, we calculate forever, you know, the 10 times more powerful than herd performance measures, the power of comparison, creating consistent genetic trends, and incorporating genomic information. These are things we have now that we didn't have back when Clarence and I started out, did we? I mean, I bet your dad would go look at a bull and we'd just pick out a bull, wouldn't we? We got in the bullpen and be 50 bulls out there, well, we like that one. We didn't ask a question, we just looked at the bull. So, but once we use those EPDs, the decision making usually is halted there. That's kind of where, you know, reputation feeder cattle comes in, where we document the genetics and the management of these cattle so that both the seller and the buyer knows what they're looking at. Verified beef reputation feeder cattle, we have a alliance with Zoetis. We have an alliance with Superior Livestock. We're also forming a lot of alliance with sale barns as well to provide this information to cow-calf guys to provide to the guys buying these calves, to the feedlot operators. So a genetic scorecard is something that was developed and patented now as well, to take the EPDs of the last 10 years of the cow herd. So if you've been buying registered bulls the last 10 years, and it doesn't matter what breed, we have 16 breed associates we work with. As long as that breed associates provides you with EPDs, we can use that information. We take those proprietary algorithms, I can't say that word. I'm going to have to make you do that one from now on. Here's our scorecard. So right here, let me go back. So right here, what we're looking at is right here is feed the game. We don't have a lot of information yet. It is in our equation. So when we have it, that will be our biggest driver. But really, choice marbling is our biggest driver for pricing these cattle. Carcass weight, yield grade, ribeye, average daily gain at 510 pounds. So this is kind of what tells you something to get a value put together. So we know if we bought these cattle, if you're a feedlot man and Dick wants to buy these, he knows that these cattle would be really high choice, about average ribeye. Be all right here. There's the story. Those cattle get up to weight, you better move them because they're going to get fat pretty fast. And you know this based on this information before he ever buys the cattle. And unless Dick had bought these cattle before, you really wouldn't know this. You might think, well, we can feed them a little longer, and it wouldn't work out. So the national average is $10. We set the national average at $10 so that really we wouldn't have any customers have -10, because the Sunday's cattle that sell out there are negative. So we set our average at $10. So these cattle here are about $8.73 over market. Trade stars, 3 stars is the average, 5 stars is the top 5% of the population. So here again we have 3 different sets of scorecards. These are all actual scorecards that we've done in the past. Here's a guy here, here's cattle here. Dick, they're pretty continental, aren't they? That's a big muscle ribeye. They got a lot of muscle, pretty good gain, big carcass weight, good yield grade. Don't put them in an Angus grid because they want marble. But you know that, it's okay. So you buy these, a lot of cattle score like this. You just buy them, feed them accordingly. This guy right here, he's the other way. Nice ribeyes, nice marbling, little low on carcass weight, pretty good on average daily gain. So you know again, to feed those cattle up, get them the weight, and move out, sell them in an Angus grid. Now this guy down here is Tom Watkins, is a guy from Oklahoma, and he buys really good bulls. He's actually a retired physician, and he didn't really understand anything about the cattle business at all, but he understands numbers. So Tom Watkins, what he done was he started studying these numbers and look at the Angus dollar beef. So he understood that if he bought the top 5 or 10% of dollar beef, his cattle would look really good. So he bought those cattle. These cattle sold the first week of April last year on Superior Livestock in Fort Worth, and we predicted these cattle to be $43.60, which would put them about $22 over per hundredweight per pound. So they're weighing 500 pounds right here, right? So he sold those cattle, and on that day, we talked to a lot of buyers because this was our highest scoring cattle we ever had, and we sent out emails to feedlots, and that day those calves weighing that weight were 274, 279, 280 at Superior Livestock. That same set of calves that day, about $3.19. So that was really high. That's the highest of the year for that weight of cattle. So again, we just kind of continue on with our interpretation. Here's 2 sets of cattle, the same score, 1922, but yet 2 different kinds of cattle. Again, we know these are pretty high marbling, big ribeye, big daily gain. These cattle down here are more muscle. So you would know how to buy those cattle and keep there. So it promotes to the buyers the years of genetic investment and improvement. And also on our scorecard we have a way to mark your health and nutritional management. Seed stock customers, a service to them. It's a way to assist those customers how to buy these cattle. And I think, a show list, we have that, once these cattle listed like that, Tom Watkins down in Oklahoma, we had them on our show list for about 3 weeks before we sold them. So feedlot operators and buyers are starting to look at our webpage, looking to see what we have on our show list. So again, we go back and we just kind of summarize again how we do this prediction. So there's 10 years of records in these bulls. You have to buy registered bulls. I mean, we can get by with a few bulls that aren't registered, but we want to make sure that you're buying bulls from reputable people, and reputable people have registration papers. There's a lot of guys sell bulls that don't have registration papers. I'm not saying they're bad, but there's more information based on EPDs than anything else. So we go ahead, we get this file from, say, the Angus Association, Simmental Association, Slayer, Charlotte, whatever. We get those files back in about an hour. If you bought 300 bulls the last 10 years, we have your numbers. We know exactly what the trend is of your group of calves. We take the current sires, the grandsires, and the great-grandsires is what we predict on. And then take the number of cows you have exposed, the estimated sell weight. And then we go back and look at calf management. And this is a very important part. There's a lot of guys in this room today that are selling pharmaceuticals, things, minerals, things like, these are so important, because how many times have we been in the sale barn and they run a set of calves in the ring? They've had all the shots, guys, all the shots. What's all the shots? I mean, that could be an 8-way shot, it could be a pink eye shot, it could be a Bovashil shot, it could be anything, but maybe they didn't have everything they needed, but to some guys, all the shots is an 8-way shot. So we document that. Mineral, if you got a good mineral program, those calves are healthier. And we know if you have a good mineral program that these cattle will have a better immunity if they don't. So we document that. We take receipts from, so say Jim Wolf buys at the co-op in town, and he shows us receipts that he bought the mineral. From the veterinarian in town, he says he bought 300 doses of vaccines, his black legs, his one-shots, things like that. That way we can document it. We get audited, okay? In our office, we have to have your receipts in our office before we do your audited copy of your certificate. And then we want to know when you've done your shots. So like a June shot, September shot, we have all that on there. There you go. That's what you get. You get a certificate that now tells, if Dick's going to buy these calves from you, he knows the age and source, he knows the vaccination of the cows, okay? He knows the mineral program for them, wind and rain mineral. He knows these calves had shots on 5/1, and they had shots on 9/20, right? And it says audited right here, right? This is USDA audited, okay? It's verified that you actually done these shots. So now Dick knows there's no BS included here. He knows that these cattle were managed. He also knows, but look at these cattle. He's going to buy them. He's going to feed them babies up and put them in a grid that will reward him for marbling and a little bit of ribeye. And he knows they're going to gain pretty decent, but he knows right here, get them done. Get them out of the lot, move on to the next step. It's kind of like a calf fax, really. It's like a Carfax of the cattle industry now, where we got a calf fax. The other thing that we like to do, and this is kind of where my part of the company comes into, I like to work with seed stock guys to help them sell bulls or help their customers sell their calves. So we take the EPDs of each bull sold, and so say Tom over here sold, let's say, I'm just going to guess, Tom, you probably sold probably 1,000 bulls the last 10 years, just guessing. I mean, roughly probably 800,000 bulls probably. So we take those bulls and we run the EPDs on all the bulls he's sold, okay? So if you're a buyer from him, okay, we take the average of the bulls right in the middle, okay, and what those numbers are. And also we go back and we look at the top 25%. So the top 25% of the bulls that he sold, we look at that average, right? So here we go. Here'd be a number you can look at. So the average of those 10 years, okay, is right here. 4.4 stars, carcass weight's a little below average, rib eye's a little above average. Choice is real good, yield great, needs a little work, right? So say those average of those bulls sold would be 1846 at 600 pounds, right? $50 over market price. Still pretty good. But if you bought off the top end, you bought those bulls at the front end of the sale that have the genetics, that have the carcass performance, feedlot performance, to really get them there. Now the top 25%, they're a little better. 5 stars, 3 stars, 4.5, over 5, 3.6 yield rate. These cattle are really good. Now we know, wow, those cattle are worth $97, almost $100 a head more per head. So, about $48 separating between the average buying bulls and the top bulls. So what that tells me is if Eric and I go to the same sale, the gym sale, and Eric, he's up here and he buys them bulls that, you know, he learned his lesson, right? And he threw his comic books away. Now he's going to buy bulls that have all these traits, right? Now me, I'm standing there. I've kind of regressed. You know, I buy the last 3 bulls in the sale, and then there's a neighbor down the road that bought bulls 4 years ago from Jim, and now they want to get rid of them and buy some new bulls. So hey, I'll buy them. Okay, I buy them. Now Eric and I both go to the same sale barn. We go to the Motley Sale Barn, Tri-County Livestock. We take them in the ring, and we both say we have Jim Wolf genetics, right? We both say we buy bulls from Jim Wolf, and Jim Wolf's got a great name, he's got a great reputation, right? But what's the separation? Eric here has been buying $10,000 bulls, and I'm buying the $2,000 bulls. And at the first part of my talk, I said, really, $2-3 separate those cattle. This is a way to make sure that he's rewarded for buying the good bulls, and I get paid for what I've been buying. You know, it makes me think, well, I need to buy better bulls too. If I'm going to get that extra 10 cents a pound out of these calves, I need to step up my game. So here's kind of a, you can't see it really well, and I apologize for that. But here's kind of our show list. So you go to a web page, if you're a feedlot man, you look and see, here's the name, kind of where they're going to be sold at. They're going to be Tri-County Livestock, Superior Livestock, Northern Video, private treaty. You know, you can find them cattle any way that we have them on there. Over here's some more information, how to contact these guys, where they're going to be at. And it gives the information on these calves every day. So if you run your score on your cattle, so we went and we sent all of our information into the office. We have all the bulls loaded up for the last 10 years. This is kind of what you get back to. Here's your ranking of the bulls 1 through 18. So these bulls up here, you know, if you look, they're all like 2012, 11, 10s, okay? And the bulls down here are like 2003. So we see these are the bulls bringing your average down, and these are the bulls bringing your average up. But most likely, Clarence, these bulls are leaving, right? Most of the time, these guys right here, you know, they're gone already, but they still influence a little bit of your genetics. So you know how they kind of step it up. I would point out that right here is the herd average right here, okay? And here's the national average. So even though, you know, his numbers may want it to be, you're still doing a pretty good job. So a penny a pound is about what it costs for our service. $6 to $8 a head per, you know, we sell tags, okay? And that's what it costs to buy a tag, but you get all this other information. We also help you market those calves. We document your calves. We promote your calves to feeders who want to buy the cattle. We have a really good working relationship with a lot of feedlots, and every day of the week we try to talk to more. And we also improve your herd to ensure future profitability. You know, it's really a way of looking at genetically what your cattle are. It's a way to see into the window how your cattle feed, so that when they leave Dick's feedlot, he'll have the same information that he has, okay? One more bid page for the program, 2 more bids returns on the program. So last summer I was at Superior Livestock, and I was in Sheridan, Wyoming. And I met a fellow there that he was kind of walking back and forth all day long, and so I said that he actually was, Jerry Wolf was sitting next to him, and Jerry got to go answer a phone call, so I sit down in Jerry's chair and I start talking to him, and it's Terry Ryan. He's the GM for all the northern lots for Five Rivers JBS. And so he had seen our presentation the night before, and he said, you know, Dar, he said, at JBS Five Rivers, he said, knowing what the vaccinations and minerals are, he said, that's worth 2 cents to him when he's buying calves. Because he knows now that those cattle are protected when they go to the Five Rivers feedlot, because they commingle everything, okay? When those cattle come off the truck there, they're processed and they're weighed, and depending on what kind of weight and shape they are, and breed composition, they just go to different pens. So they commingle everything, so it really, he said, to him it's a no-brainer. He said, everybody should be doing it. Everybody should have an EID tag in these calves, and everybody should know what they're selling. So that's kind of my story. Again, you know, like Lynn and I, we ranch in Piers, and I do chores myself. I'm not a presenter. But I am someone that feels very passionate about the cattle business, and I think that this is a way for all of us, you know, to really put more value in your calves and differentiate your calves from someone else's, because we all go to the sale barn and we all want to top the sale, right? We all want to get the top price. But when we don't, we ask ourselves why. And this is a little bit of the why, and it's a little bit of the how to get that money. And I think by providing this, we can do that. You can contact me, we get on our webpage. You can contact me. I'm kind of the seed stock guy. Dwayne here is the guy that runs the number. Ralph, he worked with customer service. We're not a big company at all, but it's us three guys. We have a staff in Bozeman, a staff in Billings, Montana that actually do some of the processing, but us three guys do that. We also do NHTC and agent source verification, so we can offer that as well. But we really kind of think that this is the opportunity for people to add value. And Superior Livestock, they're working with us now, and we're really starting to see them switch the gears with their Superior reps to use our services, because it'll help those guys, those reps, market their customers' calves.